Happy Monday, everybody. We have our weekly Microstrategy Bitcoin purchase to talk about. We also have some pretty big news from IREN and Cipher. And we're going to get this started right up. Strategy buys $45 million worth of Bitcoin and boosts their holdings to 641,205 Bitcoin. This $45 million purchase of Bitcoin gave them 397 Bitcoin. And I'll leave this down below for you. Just wanted to mention that MicroStrategy did make another weekly purchase of Bitcoin. There are some details such as how they're going to raise money for future Bitcoin purchases because their current net asset value is below 2.5 times the value of their Bitcoin reserves, and their guidance states that they would not raise money through common stock sales if this happens, which it has happened. Their net asset value is just over 1x their Bitcoin holdings. But they of course do have their preferred share offerings, their Strife, Strike, Stride, all those others, you know the deal. Now let's get into this IREN and Cipher news. It's pretty big. IREN secures a $9.7 billion AI cloud contract with none other than Microsoft. Yes, somewhat recently we had the Wolf news with Google. Now we have Microsoft and IREN will be providing Microsoft with access to their NVIDIA GPUs over a 5-year term with a 20% prepayment. IREN also entered into a deal with Dell to purchase the GPUs and ancillary equipment for approximately $5.8 billion. While there's excitement with the stock price now, keep in mind that these GPUs are expected to be deployed in phases through 2026. They have a lot of growth coming in the future. One thing to keep in mind is if we are following the typical Bitcoin cycle, which October has been an interesting month, a 3.6% drop for Bitcoin, where normally it sees a gain in October, especially on a peak year. But if we do see the typical crypto winter, perhaps IREN's AI side kind of makes up for the loss in the Bitcoin mining side of things. As said by the president of business development and ventures at Microsoft, Jonathan Tinter says, together with IREN, Microsoft is delivering cutting-edge AI infrastructure for our customers. IREN's expertise in building and operating a fully integrated AI cloud from data centers to GPU stack, combined with their secured power capacity, makes them a strategic partner. This collaboration unlocks new growth opportunities for both companies and the customers we serve. Now, before we look at the Cipher news, let's look at IREN on the chart. We do have a massive gap up on this news to be expected, and we did hold our ascending trend line. On this pullback, it was held up. We didn't break down. We didn't break our structure on this trend. What I would want to see from IREN is holding this previous high. If we can hold this high and make it a new support rather than the resistance it was, this would be a good sign that IREN is on its way to go much further. And also, one thing I pointed out with the Bitcoin miners as a whole is they all basically bounced right at this 50 on the RSI. I'm sure some that are red today are either retesting their 50 on the RSI or they broke down, but IREN was one that held the 50 on the RSI, which is a good sign while you're in a bull trend. One thing to consider is if we do pull back to fill this gap, if we do happen to break this trend line, keep an eye out for this $50 level, psychological 50. We basically bounce there, and it's also where the 50 MA is getting to. It's almost there. In the next couple of days to weeks, the 50 MA will likely be resting around the 50 on the price. And also, we have earnings season coming for the Bitcoin miners. IREN is going to be reporting this week on Thursday. It's expected that they see a profit and a pretty massive growth in revenue to the tune of, $60 million or so. $241 million expected, which would be about $60 million in growth from the last quarter in terms of revenue. I'd expect that they see a profit based on Bitcoin's current price. Throughout this quarter, Bitcoin has had the highest price it's ever had of any quarter on average. So I would expect to see IREN and many of the most efficient Bitcoin miners posting a profit. Now, glancing at Bitcoin before we look over Cipher, Bitcoin is in an important area. Either we're going to break this line here that these candles have held. While we have wicked under, the candles have held. This was a previous resistance area before we broke out of it, and we did hold it as support in August, came down, broke under it, but the candles didn't break under it. If we get a candle to break under, we possibly get a retest of the 50 MA on the weekly. We are on the weekly here. And this is one thing we were kind of expecting is if Bitcoin comes down, watch that 50 MA on the weekly. We get a retest each time. We got a drop down here to 49K, a massive run before a retest. We got a drop down here to 76K, a pretty large run, about $13,000 run before a retest. Same thing here. We got this drop to 103,000, a run back up to 115,000, about a $13,000 run, and then we are coming back towards it. If we come back to the 50 MA on the $103,000 level for Bitcoin, look for a bounce. I would be very worried if Bitcoin breaks under this and finds it as resistance. as we have in past cycles. Break under, find it as resistance, good sign that we are done. Such as here, break under, find it as resistance, good sign that you're done. This has happened multiple times in other cycles. Keep an eye on the 50 MA on the weekly. If we drop it, that might provide a sign that Bitcoin cycle is coming to an end. At Bitcoin's best this cycle, it has done about a 7x from bottom to top, from 15K to where it went up to here at 124,000 level. Right now, Bitcoin's up about 6x. I was anticipating that this cycle will see a 10x roughly. Next up, I wanted to mention this news on Cipher. Cipher ran 20%. It's up a lot more than that though now. But we have a $5.5 billion 15-year deal with Amazon to supply power and space for AI workloads. And as said by their CEO Tyler Page, we executed a pivotal transaction with Fluidstack and Google, and now we're taking another major step forward by signing our first direct lease with a tier 1 hyperscaler, or Amazon. And its latest deal with Amazon Web Services will see Cipher deliver 300 megawatts of capacity beginning in July 2026, quite a ways away, with full deployment by the end of the year, that year. Rent payments will start in August of 2026, according to the company. They also reported earnings. They saw a profit, an EPS of 10 cents per share, and a $72 million worth of revenue. These Bitcoin miners that have reported so far have been reporting profits, which is a good sign for the others that are set to report soon. Now, how are you guys feeling about this IREN and Cipher news? Is there more to come? Are the other mega caps that haven't talked about any AI deals with these Bitcoin miners / AI plays set to report something? Meta, for example. Now, these stocks will heavily depend on where Bitcoin goes, where the AI stocks go in general. Bitcoin's either going to hold up at this 50 MA on the weekly and then come up to the all-time highs throughout November, or we're going to break it. There is no other option. It's either we're going to rally to new all-time highs, or we're going to break this 50 MA on the weekly and find it as resistance. And this was our all-time high. Either or. I'm still shooting for 150K to end the cycle, about a 10x for Bitcoin from its bottom, and I'm still preaching from the rooftops. Sell into strength, take some profits, trim along the way, prepare for worse times. That being said, November is typically a great month for Bitcoin. October is typically a great month for Bitcoin, and you saw what happened there. We had a 3-something% down month. I do think we're in for an exciting end of year for Bitcoin, for these Bitcoin miners / AI plays, with many set to report profits in my opinion, and who knows what announcements are coming soon regarding other mega caps wanting to pile in, wanting to copy this trend that Google, Amazon, and Microsoft are all already getting into. Those that don't follow suit will be left behind by those that do. But thanks as always for watching, guys. Hopefully you had a good weekend, a good Halloween. I think I'm a little bit out of it and tired from this long weekend, plus it's earlier than I'm normally awake. But anyways, thanks as always, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.